Today's Japanese slang term is Nurupo. Yeah, thanks for that. So, Nurupo. We good? I'm trying to make a video.
いいよ、頑張って。
Okay. As I was saying, Nurupo. Okay, as I was saying, the word above my head is one that was requested that I talk about. And normally I love to have requests because it's less work for me, right? I don't have to find the words, you find the words, and I explain them. But man, this one was a lot of work because this is a term that goes back to some of the earliest days of the Japanese internet, at least 2002. And to make this video, I had to use a lot of Wayback Machine and encountered way more dead links than I've ever encountered in trying to explain a term. But if you've seen this, if you've heard it, or I guess even if you haven't, I'm gonna do my best to explain. So let's go back to what we absolutely know. The word that we're talking about today is a shortening of null pointer exception. This is a common error in Java where, if I understand it right, basically something is not defined properly, and so the code tries to reference something which doesn't exist or can't be done. Anyway, it's an error, that's the big thing. And it's a common one, and so Japanese people, Japanese programmers, early programmers were familiar with it. As a result, on the programming board of 2chan, which was known as Maban, which comes from Purogurama, right? The ma there at the end to differentiate it from Purogramuban, which was a different board, had a thread in June of 2002 called the thread where we call null pointer exceptions Nuru, you know, the thing. Not gonna do it. Not gonna let you do it. Now, it took me forever to actually find this thread, but I actually did. And the most important part are just the first two comments, because the first person suggests that they use this abbreviation of null pointer exception, showing a kind of ASCII art cat saying it. And then the second person to respond has a different ASCII art, which is thought to be based on the 2chan ASCII character Morara, who you can see here, slapping person 1, who in response to being slapped says "ga." The thread continues with people talking about the term and also again slapping person 1, with person 6 here I believe even postulating that somebody, maybe themselves, built the thread because they wanted to make the image number 2. And throughout over 1,000 different comments, which is when 2chan used to lock threads, people continue to post this word, and people continue to post pictures of cats slapping these people that are posting the word, who then say "ga" in response to being slapped. Indeed, this person here responds to a long list of people using the word, slapping 4 of them within the same post. Nowadays, the general consensus is that no one knows why person 2 posted this or how they came up with it. Given that the image was posted within 2 minutes of the original post, people think that they had to have copy-pasted this slapping ASCII art from somewhere rather than created it on the spot. So it may have existed in a different form elsewhere, but it's kind of lost to time. And there is a theory that has gone around that they used the slapping ASCII art because if you went onto the dictionary Goo, which is now dead and therefore unfortunately can't be searched, and typed in Nurupo, and typed in the word, it would define it as being punched. Now, this explanation was added to the 2chan word dictionary, which existed at the time but is now defunct and you have to search through Wayback Machine. But using Wayback, I was able to confirm that initially this explanation was not there for the word that we're talking about, but it was added sometime between February 2nd and June 3rd of 2004, and then eventually deleted by early 2013, when I guess people realized it was not a reliable claim. So nowadays, for instance, on Nikonikopedia, it just says that you'd have to ask the person who wrote it to figure it out because nobody really knows. It could just be the person's frustration with this kind of error. So all in all then, very quickly within this thread, the shortening changed from something that the poster was potentially hoping others would use as an actual shortening of null pointer exception into basically kind of a call response thing that went online. But was this actually the first use of this shortening? Well, that's hard to say, because most of the Japanese internet says it was, and I'm kind of leaning towards agreeing because at least certainly I can't find anything earlier. As well, Google does show uses of the shortening happening before 2002. They're all errors. For instance, Google turns up this hit here, which leads to a dead link, but seems to indicate a use of the word we're talking about back to 1997. Now, that would put the entire timeline in jeopardy if it wasn't for the fact that 2chan did not exist in 1997, and therefore this is impossible. But wait, I found another hit. This blog right here is listed by Google as being posted in 2000, and the blog itself notes that 2000 is the time that the blog is posting this. So this has to be a use that predates the 2chan post, right? Well, again, it would if the blog website here was not created in 2004. So I have no idea why this blogger put that date there. Maybe it was just to make me mad 2 or so decades in the future, in which case, well done, well planned, sir. But it's not real. And it is very easy to find a huge amount of uses of this word on the Japanese internet starting in 2003, which makes the claimed timeline, wherein this post is literally the first use of this term ever, line up with all the data that I can find. But If you're looking at this compilation, which all does come from different threads, you might know that a lot of them seem to have a name on there. Well, while 2chan is mostly anonymous, there is something called a kotehan. This term comes from kote handaru, or like a set handle, and was used to refer to people who, despite the general anonymity of these boards, used an actual kind of set name that identified their posts with them. And the person you're looking at here is one of the famous early ones, a kind of infamous early online Japanese troll known as Yamazaki Wataru, who spread this term around a whole bunch of boards outside of just the programmer board, ensuring that it appeared all across 2chan. This popularity, I guess, also resulted in a 2003 computer worm malware that was released on the Japanese internet, taking the name of this shortening, which no one knows who made it, but I'm guessing it was therefore like a 2chan kind of script kiddie sort of person. All in all then, Nurupo, quickly lost any kind of real meaning and just became this thing that showed you regularly used certain corners of the early Japanese internet, rapidly expanding far beyond the initial intents of anyone involved. Indeed, the Wikipedia for this word appeared in 2004, which is super early for like an online slang term. And the creator of 2chan, Nishimura Hiroyuki, is very aware of it too.
おはよう、ひろきさんおはようございます。ヌルポか。
And because, of course, many of the early users of these forums were people who were involved in tech very early on, there have been kind of references to this term throughout Japanese media. For instance, in the now defunct program Windows Live Agents, a Japanese version of the chatbot known as Maiko, which I think is a joke based on my computer, would respond with ga if you type the word into the chat. And there are regular media references too, such as in the 2011 anime Steins Gate, where a character who is secretly obsessed with what they call a-chanaru, which is clearly a 2channel reference, is tricked into revealing that she spends too much time online because she reflexively responds with ga when prompted.
Nurupo.
Ga.
That was actually the Spanish subtitling though, by the way, so good job to that translator for the epic fail joke, which I think is kind of a solid choice for getting the vibe across. Indeed, this word even kind of broke into like outside the internet containment a bit, as in 2004, 3 Japanese citizens who were kidnapped in Iraq were returned home, and 2chan being kind of a reactionary forum, organized a small protest that was very poorly attended, but they held up protest signs. One was just a Japanese flag, another said serves you right, another says repay our tax dollars, and then one said the thing. Which apparently I cannot find videos or articles asserting this anymore, they've all been deleted, but led to announcers on live TV asking what this is, and even Western media trying to figure out what it meant. Which is all, of course, very silly, but made 2chan very excited that this much attention was being attended to their word. By 2015, though, this word was seen as old hat. The aforementioned and unfortunately now dead website Goo did a poll of like online terms that people find to be cringe, and it was there at number 6. But even in 2025, there are people online doing the thing, the interaction remains, or even just using it to respond to random god that they find in the wild. As a result, then, this interaction has become what the Japanese internet refers to as an oyakusoku, or literally a promise, but again, kind of a call and response that indicates to people that you are, someone who doesn't touch enough grass. There are examples of this in the early English internet. I'm dating myself here, but things like do you have stairs in your house, or like the narwhal bacons. Back when spending too much time online was like a rare thing rather than something that every single person is doing, these sort of shibboleths had value in letting people recognize that other people were members of these same kind of online groups. Even if they're not really useful anymore, because you can tell that we all use the internet too much because of how dead we look in all of our eyes. So all in all, that's what it is, that's where it comes from, and now I guess you know what to say if you're online and someone comes up to you and says, you know what? You take this one.
Nurupo.
Ga.